Hello students, in today's class we are going to discuss about the anthraquinone glycosidyl drugs of your unit 2 of BP 5041. Basically it is pharmacognosy and phytochemistry 2. So today we will study about Senna and Elo, which are the anthraquinone drugs. They are the glycosidyl drugs, and before I move further I would like to tell you about these anthraquinone glycosides. So anthraquinone glycosides, they are generally derived from the anthracene ring. Okay. So what is the anthracene ring? This I draw, this I am drawing, this is a benzene ring. Okay. And if we draw one more ring, what will it become? If I make it aromatic, then it will be naphthalene ring. Okay. And if I draw a third ring and it is also aromatic, then what will it become? It is known as anthracene ring. Okay. It will have, I can draw here two lines or something like that. So it is anthracene ring. Now, when there are two keto groups which are replacing this basically the center bonds, and we have two keto groups which are coming together, then it becomes anthraquinone. Okay, it is a anthraquinone ring, and at this 10th position, when we have joining of any glycone moiety, then it becomes a anthraquinone glycoside. So we are going to study about this in this particular lecture. So Senna is the first anthraquinone glycosidal drug, and it is obtained in two different varieties known as the Alexandrian Senna and the Tinnevelli Senna. Okay. And it is also known as Senai ki patti. In Hindi it is known as Senai ki patti. The biological source is that it consists of dried leaflets of Cassia acutifolia and Cassia angustifolia belonging to the family Leguminosae. Okay. The Cassia acutifolia is known as the Alexandrian Senna, and Cassia angustifolia is known as the Tinnevelli Senna. You can remember this, that acutifolia is something which is having a acute foliage, means the apex is acute in nature, while angustifolia, it is having a broad kind of apex. So that is angustifolia. This we will discuss in the morphological differences. The geographical source, as we saw, Alexandrian Senna, it is mainly found in the areas near the Nile river, basically Egypt, South Africa and the other middle upper territories near this Nile river, and it grows wildly. Okay. It is not cultivated, while in India we have the cultivation of this Senna specifically in two districts of Tamil Nadu, that is Tinnevelli and Ramanathapuram. Okay. So, in South India we have two districts, Tinnevelli and Ramanathampura, where the cultivation of Senna is done. Okay. Now, these are the pictures of Tinnevelli Senna and Alexandrian Senna. One by one we will discuss the differences between the two. But before I move further, I would like to mention that because we saw in the biological source that it consists of leaflets, because this is a compound leaf. Okay. We know that it belongs to Leguminosae family, and Leguminosae family, all the leaves are generally compound in nature, means the lamina region, it is divided into small leaflets. Okay. So, this is a compound leaf. We are going to discuss only about the leaflet morphology. So, one by one we will look at the differences. Tinnevelli Senna, it is generally having a entire structure on drying and it is less broken, while Alexandrian Senna, it is more brittle and we have more powdery kind of leaf when we dry it. The size of Tinnevelli Senna is 2.5 to 5 centimeter in length and 7 to 9 mm in width, while Alexandrian Senna is 2 to 4 centimeter in length and 6 to 10 centimeter in width. So, Alexandrian Senna is slightly shorter than Tinnevelli Senna. The shape, if you look at the picture, we can see that the shape of the Tinnevelli Senna, it is lanceolate in nature. Lanceolate means that on both the side it is tapering. Okay. Because it is tapering from both the side, we will call it lanceolate shape, while in Alexandrian senna it is ovate lanceolate. Ovate lanceolate means that it is having a long structure, more tapering on both sides, but because the base is more broad, we will call it ovate lanceolate. Okay, because of the broadness of the base, we will call it ovate lanceolate shape. The apex in case of Tinnevelli senna is less acute with a sharp spine, while in case of Alexandrial it is completely acute. So, if you look at the picture here, you will find that it is not that acute, but there is a small notch kind of thing which is present on the tip. Okay. So, there is a notch which is present on the tip, making it slightly acute, while in Alexandrian senna it is clearly visible that the apex is acute in nature. And then the margin of this Tinnevelli senna, it is entire, means completely smooth, while in Alexandrian senna it is slightly wavy in nature or curled in nature. Okay, though it is smooth, it is slightly curled also. There is no difference in the, you can say, shape, it is like this only, but slightly curliness is there. And the base, okay, the base of the leaf, the base of the leaf is asymmetric in both the cases, but in Tinnevelli senna it is not that visually we can differentiate that whether it is a asymmetric base or not. Okay. Now, here I have drawn, this is a asymmetric base, means what, that the ending of the lamina portion is not at the same point from both the sides. Okay. If it was like this, I will just draw it here again. If it is completely at the same point, we will call it a symmetric base. If it has two different positions, then we will call it as a asymmetric base. So, here in case of Tinnevelli senna, it is not very clearly asymmetric base, while in Alexandrian senna it is clearly visible that the base is asymmetric. So, it is conspicuously visible asymmetric base. The surface of Tinnevelli senna is less pubescent, while that of Alexandrian senna more pubescent because of the amount of the trichomes present. More trichomes means more pubescent in nature. The color of Tinnevelli senna is light green, while that of the Alexandrian senna is dark greyish green. So, you can make it the difference visually from the appearance of the two different types of the compound leaves. And now we move to the chemical constituents. So, the main chemical constituents are the anthraquinone glycosides, that are the sennosides, and depending upon the arrangement in which these sennosides are present, they are classified as sennoside A, B, C and D. So, we will first look that what are these sennosides A and B and what is the differences between all of these. Okay. So, the main chemical constituent here are the sennoside, and to understand that how these sennosides are arranged, we are going to understand through using this slide. So, what is happening is that this is one anthrone ring, okay, and we have another anthrone ring which is here, okay, because it is containing the keto groups. And the main the glycosidal part is here. Okay, these are the glycosidal parts. So, we have the glycones and these are the A glycone, and in A glycone we can see two anthrones are joined together through this 10-10 dash position, and the difference is where that here we have a carboxylic group and here we have named it as R. Okay. Now, in case this R is COOH, carboxylic group, then we will call it as a rain. Okay. This is one, this whole entire structure is that of a rain, while this is, when it is carboxylic acid, it will again be rain. Now, when two rain moieties are coming together, what will we call it? A dianthrone of rain. Okay. So, whenever we have dianthrones of rain, we will call them sennoside A and sennoside B. Okay. So, we have dianthrones of rain which we call as sennoside A and sennoside B, and if these hydrogens they are arranged in a opposite way, okay, then we are going to call it as a trans arrangement, means the dimer it is arranged in a trans form. If it is arranged in the same direction, then we will call it as a mesoform, or that is a sennoside B. Okay. So, the differences between senoside A and B is that they are isomers. If it is transformed, then it is senoside A. If it is mesoform, then it is senoside B. But structurally they are same. They are the dienthrones of rain, where the R is carboxylic acid group COOH. Okay. And then we come to the senoside C and D. In senoside C and D, what is happening, that this R, it is replaced by CH2OH. Now, when it becomes a CH2OH, then we will call it as alloamidine. Okay, what will we call it? Alloamidine. And now what is happening, on one side we are having a rain, on the other side we are having the alloamidine. So, two are completely different structures. Okay. So, we cannot call it dienthrones. What will we call it? We will call it heterodianthrone, means the two different groups are completely different. That is why it is a heterodianthrone, and the names are senoside C and senoside D. Okay. And again this senoside C and D, same way they are isomeric in nature. If the arrangement is trans, we will call it senoside C. If the arrangement is meso, we will call it senoside D. Okay. So, this is how we can differentiate between senoside A, B, C and D. So, these are the main chemical constants which we discussed, senoside A, B, C and D, and we can understand here again that A and B, they are the A glycones of senidine A and B, and senidine A and B, they are the dienthrones of rain. Okay. Senoside C and D, what are they? They are the heterodienthrones of alloamidine and rain. Okay. They also contain palmidine, which is a type of a glycoside of these anthrones, dimeric. Rain anthrone means the rain part, where you have only the A glycone part. Then its glycosides as well as alloamidine and its glycosides. There are also free anthrones like chrysophenol, amidine and other glycosides, and free alloamidine, rain, they are monoanthrones, dienthrones and their glycosides. The leaf also contains mucilage in the epidermis. So, this is about senna, and now we come to the chemical tests of senna. So, basically what happens is that in this chemical test, we will boil the senna leaf in sulfuric acid, and when we are boiling it, the glycosides, they break, the glycosidic linkage breaks, and the A glycone goes in the organic solvent which we are adding. So, we added H2SO4, then organic solvent, A glycone goes in the organic solvent, after which when we add ammonia, the organic from the organic solvent, due to the basic nature, the ammonia, it turns into a pink to red coloration. So, now we come to the uses of senna. So, senna is generally used as a laxative as well as a cathartic drug. So, we are using two terms here, laxative and cathartic. The use is the same, that it is used to treat constipation, okay, for easy defecation, but the process by which it is acting, that is two-way process. One is laxative, where the food material or the undigested material is present, the bulk of it is increased by senosides by swelling due to the mucilage present as well as the glycosides present, and secondly it exerts a action on the intestinal lining of the large intestine, because of which the tone of the smooth muscles increases and it leads to a cathartic action. Okay. So, both the actions, laxative and cathartic action, are seen in senna. And because of the irritation which is causes to the large intestine, normally it is combined with certain carminatives like tincture of carminative, which we had discussed in the last class. Senna pods are also the allied drugs of the senna leaves. Pods are normally considered to be the fruits of the leguminous plants. So, these pods or fruits, they also contain the anthraquinone glycosides A to D, because of which they can be used as a allied drug of senna. And the adulterants or senna are mainly Cassia obovata, which is known as dog senna, Cassia auriculata, known as palthe senna, Cassia angustifolia, known as Bombay, Mecca or Arabian senna, Cassia marylandica, which is basically American senna, and Maryland senna, which is also known as the biological name is Poinciana pulcherrima. Okay, so these are some of the adulterants which are generally used to replace senna. And now we come to the next drug, which is aloe. You must have commonly seen this aloe as an indoor plant, as a very good ornamental plant, and you must have also seen its applications. Nowadays people consume it as a nutraceutical. So, now we are going to discuss about this aloe, and because there are many species of aloe which are available, we have to only focus on those species which are officially considered to be the aloe drug. So, here we have listed out in the biological source that aloe is the dried juice which is collected from aloe berry, aloe vera or aloe barbadensis and aloe ferox belonging to the family Liliaceae. Okay. So, the family is Liliaceae, and there are three different varieties. One is the aloe berry, one is the aloe vera or aloe barbadensis, and third is the aloe ferox. Now, commonly depending upon the places in which they are grown, they are having different names, also common names. Like aloe berry, it is found in two places. One is the Socotra, so it is known as the Socotrine aloe, and in Zanzibar, so it is known as Zanzibar aloe. So, two varieties of aloe berry are available in market. And aloe vera, which is also known as aloe vulgaris or aloe barbadensis or aloe officinalis, it is known as Curacao aloe or Barbados aloe. Okay. These are two types of aloe depending upon which areas they are cultivated. And the third is aloe ferox, which is basically itself or its hybrid by hybridization with aloe africana or aloe spicata in specifically Cape Colony, because of which the name is Cape aloe. So, we have different types of aloe: the Socotrine, Zanzibar, Curacao aloes, Barbados aloes and Cape aloe. And now we will look at the cultivation and collection of these aloes. So, cultivation is very easy because it is a xerophytic plant, it grows very easily through the offsets or through the roots, it is generally cultivated. And this Curacao aloe, it is generally what is done in the West Indies islands, basically the Curacao and Barbados are islands in West Indies. There they are collected in a V-shaped vessel. We have a V-shaped vessel and we have a tiny vessel attached at the bottom of this V-shaped structure. So, what is done that here the aloe leaves, they are arranged in a circular pattern. We will cut these leaves. Okay. So, from the cuts the juice starts oozing out, and in the tiny vessel all the juice is collected and then it is allowed to spontaneously dry, or sometimes it is boiled to have a thick consistency like that of a honey. Okay. And when it is cooled, it is stored or poured in a gourd or a box. Gourds are generally the vegetable like bottle gourd, lauki, which you know. So, in the cover of that particular lauki, this aloe is stored because aloe is prone to hydrolysis, oxidation, sorry. So, it oxidizes very fast. So, to protect it from oxygen, we have to store it in the gourds. Then there are certain boxes also, like tin boxes or kerosene tins, we can store it in them so that it does not get oxidized very fast. Then we have the Socotrine aloe and the Zanzibar aloe. In both these varieties, they are basically produced from aloe berry. Okay. So, aloe berry produces Socotrine aloe and Zanzibar aloe, and when it is prepared, it is poured, the Socotrine aloe, it is poured in goat skin. Okay. So, when it is collected, it is poured in goat skin and then we allow the spontaneous evaporation. So, it becomes a viscous pasty mass. While Zanzibar aloe, it is packed in the skins of carnivorous animals, sometimes even monkey skin. So, the difference here is collection is in the same way, in a V-shaped vessel we are going to collect it, and then after that we are going to store it either in a goat skin, generally Socotrine aloe is stored that way, and Zanzibar aloe, it is stored in either monkey skin or carnivorous animal skin. Storage is important because aloe is prone to oxidation. And the fourth variety, that is aloe, Cape aloe. Okay. Now this Cape aloe, also known as alloferox. Okay. So this alloferox, what is done here, we do the collection by making a pit in the ground. Okay. A circular pit is made in the ground, and here sheep skin is put. Okay. Sheep skin is kept here, and then the leaves, they are arranged in a circular pattern, so that the juice, it starts getting collected in the sheep skin directly. Okay. After it is collected in the sheep skin, this juice is transferred in an iron cauldron. Iron cauldron is a wooden vessel with a iron base. Okay. At the base we have iron, and at the sides we have the wooden sides. So that is a iron cauldron. So in that it is heated until it solidifies, and after that it is cooled and stored in tins. So this is how the cultivation and collection of the aloe is done, and these are the pictures showing different varieties of aloe. This is aloe Perry or Zanzibar aloe, it has many flowers also. This is aloe vera or Curacao or Barbados aloe, and this is alloferox, also known as Cape aloe. So what is done is, in the leaf, okay, what is done, that here the slit is made, okay, and the upper portion is removed, lower side the lower portion is removed. Inside we will find, in between there is a very transparent thick gel like substance which is present. So that is collected and that is stored as the aloe juice, and as we dry it, it takes a particular color and form. For example, the Curacao aloe, it becomes opaque, okay, it becomes dark colored, reddish brown to black in color, and has a very nauseous taste, bitter taste, and also the odor is not very agreeable. It has very penetrating and disagreeable odor with a waxy fracture. Means when we break, it breaks like a wax. Wax means a candle, you must have seen when it breaks what kind of surface is there. Same way that kind of surface is seen in Curacao aloe. In Socotrine aloe, what happens, that it has different colors, okay, it varies from like brownish, reddish brown to grayish brown in color, and there are many cavities. If you see the surface, there are many cavities on the surface, small perforations are there, and it is also opaque in nature, and it breaks with a irregular fracture, and again there are many holes or porous kind of surfaces seen. The taste is highly bitter. The Zanzibar aloes, they are very much similar to Curacao aloe in color and appearance, but they do not have the unpleasant odor. They have a very pleasant odor. Okay, so that is the main difference. And the Cape aloes, they are basically dark colored masses. They are slightly different because they have a yellowish coloration on the surface, a very glossy appearance and very characteristic, and you can say red currant like odor. So it is very much different than the other type of aloes. And now we come to the chemical constituents of aloes. So the main chemical constituents are aloins, okay, and in this aloins we have basically barbaloin, beta barbaloin and isobarbaloin. So these are the different types of aloins: barbaloin, beta barbaloin and isobarbaloin. So together we call this the crystalline aloin. It is made up of these three types of aloins. It also contains free amodine and free alloamodine, which are the anthrones. Okay. And barbaloin is present in all the four varieties which I discussed, but isobarbaloin, it is a crystalline substance which is present in Curacao aloe and to some extent in Cape aloe, but it is completely absent in Socotrine or Zanzibar aloe, which is the aloe Perry. Okay. So isobarbaloin is absent in aloe Perry, but it is present in the Cape aloe in little amount and Curacao aloe in more amount. Okay. And the chief constituent in Socotrine aloe and Zanzibar aloe are barbaloin and beta barbaloin. So isobarbaloin is absent in Zanzibar and Socotrine aloe. This is the structure of barbaloin. As you can see, at the 10th position we have the sugar, this is the aglycone part, and this is alloamodine. Okay. CH2OH is alloamodine. It also contains another substance named allosin, as well as this you can see is the again aloin, which is having a similar structure to that of beta barbaloin because they are isomeric in nature. The main chemical test for aloe, because they are available in variety of forms, so we have to do the chemical test. So, first we will discuss the 3 general tests. One is the borax test, where we have taken the aloe solution by mixing 1 gram of aloe in 100 ml water and filtering it through Kessel-Guhr. And after that, to this aloe solution, if we add borax and heat it, a green colored fluorescence is produced. Then after that, the second test, which is very important, also known as modified anthraquinone test. Okay, in Senna we had seen the basically Bontrager test. I will just show you that slide. We had seen the Bontrager test in Senna, where we directly treated it with sulfuric acid extracted in organic solvent, and to that organic solvent we added ammonia. But when we do this test in aloe, we get a negative result. The reason for that is because these aloes, they are C glycosides. Okay, you have seen the classification of glycosides, and because these are C glycosides, they do not give a positive Bontrager test. So, what has to be done is we will add about 5% 5 ml of 5% FeCl3 for oxidation or breaking of this C bond, after which we will add dilute HCl, and the same way we will extract it in a organic solvent, add ammonia, and then we will get a pinkish red coloration. The third test is bromine test, where we will, to the aloe solution, we will add bromine solution, we will get a bulky yellow precipitate. With nitrous acid, the aloe solution, when treating with sodium nitrite and few drops of dilute acetic acid, it produces pinkish purplish color, and this is positive because of isobarbaloin. So, Zanzibar and Socotrine aloe give a negative test, while cupraloin test, we will take aloe solution and add copper sulphate solution. So, a bright color is produced. Further, we add saturated solution of sodium chloride, and after that we will see that the color changes to purple, and after that if we further add alcohol, the color persists. In this test, it is seen that Curacao aloe gives positive test, Cape aloe gives slightly pinkish color, while Zanzibar and Socotrine aloe give negative test. So, this is again for isobarbaloin. And now we come to the uses. So, the main uses: purgative, because of its anthraquinone action, it produces a purgative effect on the large intestine. It is also used as vermifuge, mainly to kill the worms in the intestine. It is a amnagogue, means it is having it enhances the menstruation. Okay, and it is emollient, it is having a, you can say, more lubricant kind of effect. Stimulant, for the digestion it stimulates. Stomachic, reduces the pain in the stomach. It is tonic also. It is antibacterial in nature, used to treat wounds, burns, skin disorders, and has soothing effect on all kinds of skin problems like burns, etc. So, in this class we discussed about aloe as well as senna, which are very important drugs belonging to the anthraquinone glycoside category. Thank you.